Hey everyone, welcome to GVN Interviews. My name is Mike Vaughn, and today I have the extreme pleasure of talking to Vanessa and Joseph Winter about their film Deadstream, which is currently streaming on Shudder. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Really big fan of the movie, by the way.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Now jumping right in, the Wraith of Shawn montage was hilarious. What would y'all say was the most difficult segment in that montage to film?
Probably the talking part.
Oh, yeah.
We stressed about that part so much because it's your first introduction to the character.
Oh, you mean like the actual monologue?
The actual monologue, yeah. But I guess that's not the answer. Like, that's not part of the montage.
Well, in the actual montage, what comes to my mind is the running from the cops segment. So we had these uniforms that the two cops were wearing and these prop guns that are fastened to the belt. You can't actually take them out, but it looks so real that it was making people really nervous. So we kept, we'd go around all the stores and tell them we're doing this thing. I called the police. We didn't want somebody to show up and it become like a gunfight or something by accident. So that was, I would say, maybe not the most difficult, but probably the most stressful.
And then probably Baby Moses.
Baby Moses was a little bit fun, though.
Yeah, it was a little bit fun.
So Joseph, was any of your lines ad-libbed or was this all scripted?
It had to be scripted. So we found out in the rehearsal process as we were basically trying to film the whole script just on phones or whatever we had to feel out the pacing of it. And it was so obvious that it couldn't just be loose. It had to be precise. You had to know exactly what mark Shawn was supposed to hit at a certain line. We had to know, Vanessa had it all stopwatched out so that on set we had 20 seconds or 18, it was as specific as like 18 seconds for this moment to happen. Otherwise we'd accidentally have a 107-minute movie or something like that. I mean, that's the thing that we learned from the rehearsal. So on set, the only things that happened in the moment were sometimes having to toss out jokes that just weren't working or dialogue that just didn't sound natural no matter how hard I was trying. And so we would then just sidebar and try to come up with something new, but definitely no improv.
Okay, great. Now, obviously, your character, Shawn, is very controversial. So I'm kind of curious, what would y'all say is a controversial horror movie opinion?
Oh, wow.
Oh, good question. Maybe that
controversial horror movie opinion.
Well, we were just talking earlier to somebody about favorite found footage movies, and one of mine was Unfriended, and that seemed like it was a little bit controversial. But I think that I also don't really love signing up for movies that are about social media, which is funny because I ended up making one. So I had to be talked into watching that one, but I think that there's a lot of really brilliant tactics in the way that they just use that desktop format.
Yeah, for me, I think this is the least controversial, but a lot of people hate House 2, the second story. I actually really, really love House 2. I'll say that one because people won't hate me for it.
Yeah, no, I kind of have to agree with both of those points. I think Unfriended is very fun and definitely underrated in my opinion. So it's really what I think is so brilliant about Deadstream is how it really gets the horror and comedy, which I certainly know is not easy to pull off. And I was kind of wondering if it was tricky in writing and filming, if that was difficult to get that balance right.
Yeah, I think it was definitely difficult. We were pretty worried about it. We were really worried about it in the scripting process. And then I think, it's something that not only while we were filming we were worried about, but then in the edit we kept trying to fine tune it. And it ended up making quite a bit of changes in the edit after test screening of taking out some, I guess like the one example is Shawn's screams. We had some of his screaming on set that was very over the top that people on set were laughing really hard about. And then once they started playing out in the edit, they were too much for people. So we ended up re-recording a lot of the screams.
Almost all of them, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a lot of, I would say the edit and test screening is where the comedy horror balance actually was found.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because I know some filmmakers do not or absolutely despise doing like test screenings, but I think like that can be very useful, especially as you say with finding that like sweet spot.
And the thing is, we despise it too. It just I do, at least.
It's
but it was
I mean, some of the hardest part. Yeah,
it was so hard, but the movie would not be anything near what it is right now if it weren't for that hard process. You just learn so much.
I think also not just listening to the audience's opinions, but I think there's something about sitting next to somebody watching your movie that kicks in your own intuition, where you're able to take some distance from it and be like, oh, the scene that I really loved, it's way too long. Like I can feel it now that I'm feeling this other person watch it.
Yeah.
And speaking of screenings, you've obviously done like Beyond Fest. What was it like with the audience reaction? And was there any reactions that kind of surprised y'all?
Good. That's a really good question. They've gotten more fun as they've progressed.
Yeah.
The very first ones, when it premiered, I was super nervous. But by the time we got to Beyond Fest, I actually had a good time watching it with the crowd, and also they're just like the best crowd.
Yeah. Man, I wish I could think of some of these off the top of my head, but there definitely are things where I'm surprised that either people don't laugh or laugh harder than I thought they would. And one of those moments, is this a spoilery interview or non-spoiler?
It can be spoilery. I can put a spoiler alert.
Okay. When Shawn stabs Chrissy and he realizes he's holding his neck and he looks down and he says, "Oh shit." And it shows her him saying, "Oh shit," gets such a huge laugh. And that I wasn't expecting that, because in that moment we were just having him just react. It wasn't a joke or anything, but people really think that moment is funny. And I'm always surprised by it.
I think I speaking for myself, I didn't laugh because it was like that oh shit moment, but I definitely can see how well you sell that moment where it can be maybe a little bit humorous, but I think it's like in a good way that relieves a little bit of that tension too. This has probably some of the best jump scares, I think, in any recent movie that I've seen. So for any of my budding filmmakers that may be watching, what would you say is the secret ingredient to like a really great jump scare?
Oh man, I wish we had the answer to that. I think that you just have to take risks. Like in our movie, not all of the scares land. Like there's some parts that in my mind, I imagine them being really scary and they aren't in the movie, but luckily we had enough of them that worked. I don't know. You have any jump scared?
I think the thing I'm learning from it is most people are appreciating the jump scares that we ended up doing. And the ones when they start talking about it, the thing that they like about it is that the jump scares are related to the story. They feel like the tension that's building and then the payoff that happens is relevant. It's not a build up to something that didn't end up like a cat or something that had nothing to do with the movie. I think those are the kind of jump scares that really frustrate people, because then it's just a gag. Whereas in our movie, and I'm not trying to say we did a great job with this or anything, but just in what I'm reading, people analyze it, is that the gags that happen are surprises, but also tell another piece to the forward plot, like forwarding the plot.
Yeah, I think it's always nice if you can relate to the scare, like if it comes from a place that would really scare you. And I think, yeah, there's an iPad moment that seems to work really well for people. And I think that came from me just thinking about what would be really terrifying about seeing something on a piece of technology that you couldn't see with your own eyes. So that's my way into it.
Yeah.
Nice. So I'm really curious, like, was it always the plan to introduce a second person into the house, or was it supposed to just be Shawn's character originally?
The very, very first version of it was just Shawn's character all the way through, because we thought it was going to be 100% do it yourself. Just the two of us going out and filming something. But that didn't last very long. That wasn't the idea that we thought was a good idea. And so I mean, our good friend, Melanie Stone, who plays Chrissy, she's been in our stuff before, and we tend to put her in everything that we're thinking of.
I think once she decided that she wanted to be on board and we got to write the villain around her, a lot of the balance of horror and comedy started to make sense in my mind, because she's so great at being funny but also terrifying. And so that was a pretty early early. She was before even like the first half of the script was finished, she was on board.
Nice. And I think what's kind of exciting is you also have a new project. You did a segment in VHS 99, which is kind of great because I just got my screener in today, so I'm so really excited to check that out. I know you can't say too much, but can you give fans a little tease of what your segment's all about?
Yeah, our segment, the characters go to hell.
Actual hell.
Actual hell.
And I think what we try to do, I'll at least say this, the intention of what we did is it's 17 minutes long. We tried to give these characters a complete journey that you usually would only see in a feature-length film in a really short amount of time. And we just hope that people have fun with the story. It's definitely less scary than Deadstream, and it's more fun with cool practical effects gags.
Yeah, that just reminded me. I did get permission to say one spoiler, which is there's a creature in it that is half woman, half maggot. And she's like, we've coined her name as Wormaid.
I love it. So my last question is, let's just say a studio gave you guys a blank check and they were like, make whatever dream project you wanted. What would that be?
It would be a bad movie, probably.
I have one.
Okay.
No, I have one it's a real one, which is it would be a sci-fi horror that takes place. We've called it The Dark Side of the Planet, which is basically astronauts go to a planet where half of the planet is always in the dark. And so on that side of the planet, there's creatures that kind of look like the bottom of the ocean.
Like where there's like eye sockets, but no eyes. That's
probably our most like Jurassic Park type movie that we have that we could just spend a ton of money on.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's make it.
Yeah. How was that pitch? That's the first time we pitched it.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sold. Do a Kickstarter. I will fund it. Yeah, that's great. Is there any other projects that y'all want to plug that's coming up besides VHS 99?
I think that's that's it.
VHS 99.
All right. That's great. I'm very excited. And again, thank you so much for talking to me. Deadstream is currently on Shudder right now. This is not sponsored by them, but I love Shudder, and you should all subscribe to that and check out their movie right now.
Thank you. Awesome. Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Mike. Have a good one.
You too.